Hey everyone, my name is Margot in case you don't already know me, and today I'm here to share with you 10 things that I think you should know before going to Croatia. So the first thing that I think you should know before going to Croatia is that you should bring water shoes. So most of the beaches in Croatia are pebble beaches, and I know that sounds like they might be some smooth pebbles, but oftentimes on these beaches, these rocks have harsh edges, and we found ourselves, my friends and I, found ourselves with cuts on our feet, and when you are backpacking and walking every day, it's just not a pleasant experience to be walking around with all these small cuts on your feet. I really wish that we would have just brought water shoes, or we would have accommodated some space and, put them in our backpacks and bought them when we got there. But one of my friends actually cut her feet so bad that she was struggling to walk for the entire last week of our trip. So I think that just purchasing water shoes either before you go to Croatia or as soon as you get there will just make your experience there so much better and make your beach time so much more enjoyable. So the second thing that I think you should consider before going to Croatia is to consider going during the off-season. So Croatia's high season is typically during the months of July and August. And what I ended up doing was I ended up going in mid-April to mid-May. And the temperatures there were actually quite pleasant while we were there. We usually saw on a typical day a high of about 25 or even like 32, I think was the highest temperature that we saw. It didn't really rain, and yeah, the temperature was just really mild and it wasn't that busy. Whereas if you were to go in July or August, that is the peak season for tourism, so you are going to be dealing with lineups, congested areas, and I've heard people say that the highs in July and August can hit up to plus 50. So I'm not even sure if that's really what I would want on a vacation personally. It depends on the person, but I think that you would gain a lot from the experience of going to Croatia if you were to go either, say, in April, May, or June, or even consider going in the later months like September and October. So the third thing that I think you should know before going to Croatia is that Wi-Fi isn't quite as readily available as you might think that it would be. Now, there were tons of spots that had Wi-Fi, but most of those Wi-Fi sources required a password. So we found ourselves wasting so much time just trying to get onto the internet to either find a more affordable restaurant or even just to get to our accommodations. I think that the best way to mitigate this is just to get a SIM card. If you're going with a group of people, I think it's only really necessary that one person has it, but SIM cards are quite affordable and they will save you so much time and stress during your trip. One thing that's worth noting is that if you purchase a SIM card in the EU, so say you first land in London or Dublin, you can purchase a SIM card from that place and it will work for you in Croatia even though it's a different country. So if you get a SIM card in the EU, it will work for all European countries. So if you plan on spending any amount of time in multiple European countries, it is so worth your while to just get a SIM card. The fourth thing that I think you should know before going to Croatia is that it isn't quite as affordable as it used to be. Now, when I was planning my trip to Croatia, I had lots of people telling me that the food was affordable, the alcohol was affordable, and the accommodations were affordable. Everything was affordable. And while I think that some of those things are true, I would say that food, which is obviously the thing that you need to purchase every single day, is not as affordable as I had hoped. So we found ourselves often spending about $25 to $30, and that was us ordering one of the cheapest things on the menu and also getting a drink, of course. And the drinks were never really that expensive, but what we found was so expensive was generally just the entrees and the food options. So I just think it's important to be aware that the food isn't going to be quite as affordable as you might think in Croatia, or the way that people portray it to be. So what we ended up doing was we would purchase breakfast items from the grocery store, eat that in our Airbnbs, and usually eat enough so that that could cover us for dinner, and then occasionally snack throughout the day if need be, and just go out for supper. So that kind of helped us save our money. But I just think it's important for you to realize that if you are spending money on going out for breakfast, dinner, and supper, you are going to find yourself spending far more money than you would probably expect. Now, we did find that the food was expensive, but what we did not find was expensive was purchasing alcohol at grocery stores. That was super affordable, and probably the most affordable thing was our accommodations. We spent a lot of our time in Airbnbs and hostels, and Airbnbs, we would typically spend about $40 a night. That's split between 3 people. So we were super impressed with the amount of money that we managed to save from booking Airbnbs. And then hostels were typically no more than $20 a night. So on the spectrum of accommodations, I think that people accurately say that that is affordable. I do think that it is affordable. So another thing that I think you should know before going to Croatia is that they have European plugs. And I know that that sounds like an obvious thing to mention to you, but what you might not realize is if you're going from North America to Croatia, the chance is high that you will find yourself in the United Kingdom at some point. And the UK doesn't actually have European plugins, so they have their own plug. And if you were planning on just getting an adapter for the EU, you might want to reconsider that if you do spend any amount of time in the UK. So what I recommend that you do is to purchase a universal power adapter. These will cost you about $35 on Amazon, but they give you total peace of mind. You have an adapter for any country that you go to, and it will work for every single stop that you have throughout your journey. And I think that that's a great investment, because anytime you travel anywhere, even for different trips, you can still use that, and it's just a really good investment. One thing that I didn't think about when I went to Croatia was bringing anti-nausea pills or a patch to put on if we were going on ferries or even just really bumpy car rides. Now, I wouldn't usually mention this because I'm typically not one to get sick on boats, but I have taken quite a few ferries in the past few years, and the only time that I have ever seriously struggled with not being sick was my trip in Croatia from Hvartown to Dubrovnik. So I think that I'm not sure if that route is just particularly rough normally, or if we just had, you know, a really bad journey. Maybe it was a one-off. But I think for the amount of space that an anti-nausea patch or some pills take in your backpack, it's worthwhile just bringing that so that you have peace of mind and you don't have to even worry about potentially being sick on a boat. So the 7th thing that I think you should know before going to Croatia is an obvious one. If you have ever looked at a map and looked at the country of Croatia, you may have noticed that it is a very long country. It kind of goes like it starts here and then it goes long and it kind of tapers off at the bottom. So I know that seems kind of like an obvious thing to mention, but what lots of people do when they travel is they will book a round trip. So they might decide to land in Zadar and then leave from Zadar at the end of their journey. But what I would recommend is to either start in a northern city or a southern city and then go in the opposite direction and fly out from another city, so that you're not wasting any time going back to your original destination. I think this is so important, especially if you don't have that much time on your trip, because that will save you so much travel time that is just wasted, and you can see so many more new things and just kind of relax a lot more. So one of the last things that I think you should know before going to Croatia is that it's a really good idea to pack light. lots of Croatian cities have fortresses or old towns, and these are filled with just cobblestone walkways. And if you plan on bringing a rolly bag, you are gonna have a heck of a time lugging that around in those spots. For one, you're gonna get lots of crazy looks. I think people would be annoyed with you. And also, you're just gonna have a terrible time doing it. What we did was we just brought carry-on sized backpacks, and we traveled there for 3 weeks with just these carry-on sized backpacks, and we were totally fine. The nice thing with that is you can visit national parks with your backpack on, and it's not terribly inconvenient, whereas if you brought a 40-pound rolly bag, you pretty much wouldn't be able to do that. Another thing that we found was when we were booking bus tickets, oftentimes they would try and make other people pay an additional bus seat to put their luggage next to them in the seat next to them, even if it wasn't a full bus. So that was the nice thing that we avoided as well. Though it wasn't always very comfortable, we could easily take our backpack and just put it on our lap and hold it for the couple hours that we were on the bus. So I think that overall, just packing light is a really good idea to go to Croatia, and it will really just make your experience a lot less frustrating in some ways. So the last thing that I really want you to know before going to Croatia is that it's so important to stop and smell the roses. Croatia deserves your time, and there is so much to see, and oftentimes what people will do and the mistakes that they'll make is they will pre-book everything and leave so little time for each attraction. I think it's so important just to let yourself to have those extra days, to have those extra hours to really take in what you're seeing. And especially for Croatia, this kind of goes for any place that you travel to, but especially for Croatia, I found that while I was there, there were so many times that I just wanted to stay someplace just a little bit longer, or I didn't feel like I really got to take in, say, a national park. And I just think that if you're there, spend the time, spend a couple weeks, at least plan to be there for like 2 weeks, and make sure that you have some flex days and some flex time to really spend time in the spots that you really love. So this wraps it up for the 10 things that I think you should know before going to Croatia. Please leave a comment below if you have any other tips for people that might want to go to Croatia. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye!